Okay, where are my early birds? If you're here and you can hear me, kindly, you know how we do it now. Use the chat box. It's been 2 weeks for those who have been following weekly. I'm pretty sorry for last week that we didn't have this session last week. It wasn't intentional. Had some things that came out. I had to push the session to this week. So there are a lot of things I've been working on personally that has been taking a lot of my time. But I'm glad we're here. So yeah, if you can hear me, can kindly okay, yeah, awesome. Thank you, Marvel. I can see you. So we're gonna be moving straight into it. Today's session might not last for an hour, it might just be for about 30 minutes. That's because it's not something that requires too much talk, but it will still be pretty impactful. If you've been following for a long time, you know that I share hot gists and everything I share are things that will help you. So let's move straight into it. Yeah, welcome. You know how to do it. So just kindly share the live stream, share to your status, share to group chats that will benefit from this. So we've been on a series for the past 4 weeks now. This is like week 4. And today's session, we're going to be talking about freelancing and versus remote, working full-time remotely. So still on the series of work and earn remotely. My early birds are here. Marvel, Promise, Deborah, welcome guys. So still on the series of work, how to work and earn remotely. And the idea is that after all these live sessions, you should have all the skills and requirements you need to get started working remotely. So if you're just joining or are just watching this video for the first time, my name is Richard Chuku, and I'm almost 25, not 25 here, but almost 25. And I've been working remotely for the past 4 years of my life, working with multiple brands and organizations all over the world. And it's been pretty amazing because it's exciting that I don't have to travel outside the country to network with the global space and connect with the people in countries that on a normal day I wouldn't have the opportunity to travel. So, and actually earning foreign currency is pretty exciting. Imagine the current exchange rates now in dollars. I think last I checked, it was about 1,554, 50, 60. Let's just say 1,500. So imagine earning a minimum of, even if it's just $1,000 every single month by working remotely. That's about if you do the math, about 1.5 million naira if you are watching from Nigeria. So that's pretty that's a lot of money actually. And I don't think they are up to 10% of the entire population of Nigeria that earn up to that amount every single month. So if you're earning that amount, you're a baller, trust me, if you're from a country like mine. So yeah, guys. So awesome. If you're ready, I need to type, you know how we do it, value, value, value. Just type it in the chat box, then we'll move right into it. You know how we do it, guys. Go ahead. Type value, 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 value 3 times. That tells me that you are ready for tonight's session. Value, value, value. Now, for those that will be watching the replay later, please, there is a reason why I usually ask you to do this. So anything I say you should do, just even though you're watching the replay, type it in the comments. It will help me to know that, oh, you actually watched the video and give your feedback afterwards. Awesome. So yeah, the title for today's session is freelancing versus full-time remote job. So over the course of my years working remotely, I've had a couple of persons ask me questions like, "Oh, is freelancing the same thing as working remotely, working a full-time job? What is actually freelancing? What are the pros and cons of freelancing? Do I do I become a freelancer? Maybe I'm a graphics designer. You guys know I will always use graphics designers as an example because I was first a graphics designer. I always say this. I started out as a graphics designer, low budget graphics designer, but at least I was trying my best at the time. So sometimes people ask questions like, "Oh, as a graphics designer, do I go ahead freelancing or I get a full-time remote job with a company that pays me every single month?" So we're going to be breaking down all that in today's session. Okay, so for those that are watching already, if you've heard about the word freelancing before, you can just quickly type what you understand by the word freelancing. What do you feel is freelancing means? What do you think freelancing means? For those that have heard about freelancing before, or freelance, to freelance, does it mean working for free? Does it mean volunteering and not being paid money? So what's your basic understanding about freelancing? So guys, very quickly, just let me know in the chats. What do you understand by the term freelancing? Basically, if someone just picks, calls you randomly and say, "Hey, I'm a freelancer," would you really understand what the person is saying? Okay, so let me just go straight into definition. Let's break down freelancing, and of course, if you've watched the previous videos, you should be very familiar with full-time remote jobs, because that's what we've been talking about for some weeks now. But yeah, basically, so what is freelancing? So I would choose to put it this way. So it's like a self-employment where you are not hired by a specific company. So you're an individual and you offer your service. For instance, you're a graphic designer, you offer graphics design services to multiple clients, often on a project or contract basis. So for instance, a freelancer can be somebody who he designs graphics for client A today, designs graphics for client B the same day, designs graphics for client C the same day. Yeah, somebody said freelancing is someone who doesn't work with a company. Yeah, with a specific company. Now, to put that into perspective, so it's more like the person can work for a company, but it does not work for a specific company. They can work for like three companies at the same time, right? So based on contracts or one-time projects. So that's freelance. For instance, most freelancers are on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, where they get paid per project. So they are not hired for as a full-time role. I'll get to the meaning of full-time with in few minutes. So yeah, freelancing is basically being paid per project or being paid um per job, within a specific period of time. It can be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 7 days. So contract work sometimes can be part of freelancing. You understand? So I believe that is very clear. So to put it more into perspective, as a graphic designer, maybe you design flyer for client A, like I said, design flyers for client B and C um, on the same day. Now, with that, a particular client cannot say, oh, that they own you, or you're not supposed to work for any other company because it's a freelance project. So once you're done with the project and the client has paid you, that's all for that particular client. You move over to the next client. So that's basically the idea of freelancing. So now, but full-time remote jobs are jobs that you sign a contract. Sometimes you actually need to sign an NDA. An NDA is what we call a non-disclosure agreement, where the company tells you that there are certain information and certain data within the company that you are not allowed to disseminate to the public. So there are certain posts you can't make. There are certain restrictions that you have based on the fact that you are working for that particular company. So a pretty good example would be my first remote job that I got as a graphic designer. I actually did sign an NDA. I signed a contract. It was with a firm in UK. And the second one was with a firm in Canada after like a year or two. And I did sign a contract. You always sign contracts for full-time jobs, and in the contract, they will state their do's and their don'ts. They will state their terms of agreement. So for those of you that are just joining, you're welcome, guys. Do well to share the link. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I don't know why you're not subscribed, but you're missing a whole lot. Share the link to your status, share the link to your group chats and all. Then also do well to like this video. Yeah, like this live stream. It helps the channel. So back to definition. So for full-time roles, like I was already explaining, full-time roles are basically roles that a particular company hires you. They send you a contract for you to sign. Sometimes it could be an e-contract if you are working remotely. They send you a contract via PDF. You sign and send it back to them, and the contract will state exactly your payment, how much you'll be paid monthly. So there is no specific time for termination of the contract. That's for a full-time role. But for freelancing, they can state that after 3 months or 6 months, when the project is completed, you no longer work for the company. That's an example of freelance. So, but for full time, there is a start date where you have to start working, but there is no specific date for termination. So sometimes the contract might state things like termination is based on performance. You can get sacked or get laid off, like they call it globally. You can get laid off based on performance. Maybe you're not meeting up with your KPI. So your KPI is what is, as to put it in a simple way, is what you call targets. So every company has targets, right? And if they're hiring you, you are expected to meet those targets. So if you are hired, for instance, and you don't meet the targets of the company, you don't meet the company's KPI, what that means is that if you do that constantly for a period of time, you get to a point where you get a strike, you get a warning. And if you keep on doing that, it means it just shows that you are incompetent, and sometimes they lay you off or they drop you. And sometimes it's not necessarily because of incompetence. Sometimes companies just lay people off based on restructuring of their processes and all that. So I believe that explains very well the difference between freelancing and full-time remote jobs by definition. So for those that probably you didn't get it before and you get it better now, you can put it in the simplest way possible. You can type that in the chat or in the comments if you're watching the replay later on. In the simplest way possible, what you understand by freelance and remote jobs. So difference, basically, I've said a lot of things. I said that for the freelance, as the kind of job, it can be a contract or it can be a one-time payment where you do a particular job as a graphic designer. Maybe you design a flyer for a client and you get paid for that flyer. That's freelance. So you can design flyers for like multiple clients, 10, 15, and you are getting paid from by each and every one of them. That's freelance. But for full time, you work with a specific company and you sign contracts and you sign non-disclosure agreements that bind you to that company for a period of time that is not stated, unless other factors terminate the job at the end. So yeah, that's for definition about freelance and full-time remote job. Now the next thing we're gonna be looking at now is what I titled pros and cons. So let's look at, like, the idea of this session. Like I explained, we're gonna look in depth into freelance. Both of them have their advantage. So somebody might decide to be a freelancer for specific reasons, while somebody might decide to be a full-time employee for other reasons too. So what works for person A might not be what works for person B. You understand? So it's very important for you to know exactly the pros and cons of each of them. Having from coming from someone who has worked on both ends, I've worked both as a freelancer, I've worked full-time remote jobs for a period of a year, 2 years. I think the highest I worked was 2 years. There's no remote job that I've worked for more than 2 years, but I've done freelance for multiple clients. You understand? So I think I'm in a very good position to really explain the pros and cons of both of them because I've been on both sides. So you don't have to be on both sides to actually get that information. So yeah, the first one now, let's talk about pros and cons of freelancing. So for pros and cons of freelancing, number one pro, starting from the pros, for those that might not really understand what a pro are simply advantages and disadvantages. So yeah, for the advantage of working freelance, number one advantage is what I put down. I said it gives you flexibility. Yeah. So flexibility in the sense that you have the ability to set your own schedule and choose projects. Somebody type that in the chat box, type flexibility. So like I explained, going back to my example of a graphics designer who designs flyers. So if a client contacts that graphics designer and tells the graphics designer, oh, I need a flyer for my business, I want the flyer to have these details or have this specific information. So what that means is that the individual has the ability to tell the business customer or the what's it called, or the client, that okay, this work could be delivered within this period of time. So a graphic designer might tell the client that, oh, The client contacts the graphic designer. Oh, I need this flyer to be done. I need this info. This is the information and all that. So it is the discretion of the graphics designer to tell the client that okay, the flyer will be ready in this period of time. So what that gives you is like gives you flexibility. You can set your own schedules and choose projects. You can also tell a particular client that you are not interested in working with them, right? You can choose the kind of project you want. But if you're working full time, you are working based on your job description. You don't have the ability to really choose exactly what you want to work on. You are given what to work on. But for freelance, you can decide to tell a client no, that you don't want to work on this project, that you're not interested because you're a freelancer. There is no agreement between the both of you, except you now decide to sign an agreement, which is a whole different ballgame entirely. So working freelance, number one, it gives you flexibility. It gives you flexibility to choose the kind of jobs you want to do. It gives you flexibility to work according to your own schedule. And why it's important, why it's a pro is because, oh, come on, who doesn't want to be in control of their time? So you can literally tell yourself that, okay, between the hours of 8 a.m. to 12 a.m., I'll work on this project. And between the hours of 12 noon to 5 p.m., I'll play PS5. For those that are gamers in the house, then, oh no, I'll chat up my friend and we'll have fun. And possibly you why freelance is also pretty exciting is because I've done a project that on a normal day I knew I can complete that project in a single day, but of course the client doesn't know that the project can be completed in a day. And I tell the client, okay, give me a week, give me 7 days, to give you the best job. But based on my skill set and everything, I knew I can complete that project within 24 hours. But hey, I needed the flexibility. I told the client, okay, give me 7 days and this is the time for delivery and all that. And they had to agree because, of course, they knew that I'm going to deliver value. But the thing is that you don't give such promises if you know you are not valuable enough or you've not built your skill to a point where you deliver exceptional value. You over deliver on your promise, in fact. So I've done a job where, like I said, where I knew I could finish it with 4 hours, but I said 7 days. So you imagine what I now spent the other 7 days. So I spent it in doing other things that I wanted to do, and I still delivered the project within that 7 days, even though it took me just like 24 to 48 hours to finish the job. So that's one thing freelance does for you. It gives you flexibility with your time and flexibility on choosing the kind of projects you want to work on. Yeah. So number two, number two thing we're gonna be talking about is yeah, I wrote this down. I said number two pro of freelancing. If you're still following me to this point, I need you to just let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. If you're already learning and you are gaining value, of course, you can't spend the first 5 minutes with me and you don't gain value. So you know how we do it: value, value, value. So yeah, number two pro of freelancing is what I titled diverse experience. So now, like I explained, freelancing gives you the opportunity to work with various clients across various industries. So you have experience working with a range of clients in different industries, in tech, in fashion. For instance, while I was a graphic designer, I worked with clients in fashion, clients in food, clients in technology. So I had I had good experience from different industries because I wasn't tied to a specific person. I wasn't tied to a specific company. So I can design flyer for a food business today, design flyer for a tech business tomorrow. I can design flyer for someone who sells hairs. I can design flyers for someone who is a plumber. I can design flyer for someone who is a caterer, different industries. So it gives you that ability for you to research into that particular industry, because for someone like a graphic designer now who is a creative, for you to actually give the right designs, those specific designs that a client might want, a lot of times you have to do some research into that industry. Now, some designers don't actually know this. Let me just give an additional tip for somebody that probably maybe you already have a digital skill and you already do freelance projects. For skills like graphics design, web development, and skills that have to do with visuals, it's important for you to do research into that particular company. The reason is because there are certain colors. Some graphic designers don't know this. That's why you don't charge what you're supposed to charge for projects. There are certain colors that appeal more to a food business than a tech business. For instance, popular colors of food business would be like yellow and black, yellow mixed with black, sometimes yellow and white. That's why you see a lot of food businesses that have this kind of color, because it appeals more to people in that particular niche. Also, apart from color, there is also specific elements that align more with people in the food industry. So a graphic designer that doesn't do his research into the particular industry he wants to work with or wants to design a flyer for will not really give the customer exactly what they want and what we actually convert for the customer. Because the whole idea of a flyer is that the flyer should generate revenue for the business. So flyers are used in marketing, they are used in publicity, they are used in spreading the word about your business. And the idea is that if you design a flyer for me as a business owner, I should expect result from that flyer. Either people can get the message I want to communicate based on how you design the flyer, or they pay me for my services because they saw my payment details on a flyer. So the flyer should actually be achieving a purpose. If you're a graphic designer, I just give you a free tip that will cost you thousands and thousands of dollars you're supposed to pay for, right? But I just give you a free tip. Yeah. So that's number two pro when it comes to freelancing. It gives you diverse experience, opportunities to work with various clients across industries. Okay. Now, number three pro of freelancing, another advantage is that, yeah, if you're still following to this point, yeah, do well to share. If you have not shared this live stream, do well to share. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe, like the video, drop a comment, drop something in the chat box so I know you're following me. So yeah, number three for the another pro when it comes to freelancing is what I tagged potential for higher earnings. Now, it's not as if having a full-time role does not allow you high, but you see, when it comes to freelancing, you have like pretty much more potential for higher earnings. This is because you have the possibility to take on multiple clients, and you can also set competitive rates. Going back to when I was a graphics designer, there are some clients that I would charge as high as, if you want to do a full brand logo or full brand identity, can charge as high as in naira 150, 200, 250, sometimes even 300,000 naira. And you can have another client that you charge the same client about 50,000 naira just because the client just wants a logo. It doesn't want any other thing else. It's not interested in whole identity. There are certain clients like that. So it gives you the ability for you to set your own rates. So what that means is that you definitely have potential for higher earnings. Nobody is telling you that, okay, I'm paying you this salary at the end of the month. So you can decide how much you are earning in a month if you are a freelancer. So maybe you're a content writer, for instance, you write content for different brands, content for different individuals. You can set competitive rates. You can set different rates for different individuals. I know there is a what is it called? There is a pretty much like an argument when it comes to rate cards. Sometimes some clients will ask you, what is your rate card? How much do you charge for this? I'm telling you, as a freelancer, you don't necessarily have to have a specific rate card. The reason is because different clients have different capacities. So I've charged a client for a brand design 200,000, and I've charged another client for a brand design for 500,000 once. So the idea is that um, when it comes to freelancing, you have the opportunity to set competitive rates for your services. Yeah. So this is majorly based on service-based businesses. Of course, you can't really do so much freelancing if you're selling a physical product, right? Because persons have to come to you and buy the product. But freelancing, you can serve multiple clients at the same time. It's different from a physical product. So everything I'm talking about is based on service-based businesses. So yeah, are we following? That is the third point when it comes to pros of freelancing. Now, the next thing, now let's go into the cons. For everything that has an advantage, has a disadvantage. Like even the most beautiful things, the things that are so good and helpful to human beings, also have its disadvantage when it comes to certain areas. Let's say water, for instance. If I Do you have an idea that if you take too much water, it can be a problem? Even if they tell you take a lot of water, but it can also be a problem when you take it in excess. You understand? So there's really nothing that has an advantage that doesn't have a disadvantage. Okay. Yeah, so moving over to the disadvantage of freelancing. For those that are just joining, of course the session is being recorded. You can always go back to the replay and watch from the beginning. For those that will be watching the replay later on, I'm sure you are getting value. Do well to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment to let me know what you learned from this session, and also what you would also like me to add in case you have any questions later on. Okay, so yeah, the disadvantage of working as a freelancer. Number one disadvantage, this is one that it's very, very popular among freelancers and why people run away from freelancing. Don't worry, I'll come to full-time role and you see that both of them have their advantage and disadvantage. So number one con for freelancing is income instability. Some months you can earn, if you're in Nigeria, you can earn as high as 200,000, 300,000, 500,000. Well, some months you might earn just 50K, 100K. Then if you are watching from the US or your currency is in USD, let me just use USD because it's the general currency. As a freelancer, you can have $2,000 months, $3,000 months, $5,000 months, and some months you can earn $1,000, $500. It's not really stable. But a full-time role, you have a salary that pays you a fixed amount every single month, and sometimes even potential to increase the amount. So there are some people who don't really like the idea of unstable income. So um freelancing is more like you being an entrepreneur, you being a business owner, than having a full-time role and you are being paid salary at the end of the month. So that's another way for you to like kind of like differentiate the both of them. So for a freelancer call like one of the cons for a freelancer is what we call income instability. Yeah, you like I explained, some months you earn high, some months you don't earn high. This is because your income stream is kind of irregular and sometimes there can be potential delay in payments. For some people who probably have maybe the client pays you 50% upfront and they pay the complete amount when you are done with the job. Sometimes you can have issues with incomplete payments, and it can be a big issue when probably, of course, and your when it comes to your what's it called? Your bills. Your bills are fixed. So imagine having an income that is not really fixed. That's a big problem sometimes because in the end, you're not really able to keep up with your bills. Some months you're able to pay your bills and have extra, while some months you're not able to pay your bills at all. So income instability is one of the cons or disadvantages of working as a freelancer. While number two con as a freelancer is what we call lack of benefits. So working full time, there are a lot of companies give you extra perks. Like I've seen companies that give you a work um tool, like a laptop. In fact, I've seen a company that gives you a MacBook when they hire you. I've seen companies that um take you on paid trips, um fully sponsored what's it called fully sponsored trips, fully sponsored. Sometimes companies even pay for couples dinner. I've seen companies like that, some little perks that come with your salary at the end of the month. So all that is included in some full-time roles. When it comes to working as a freelancer, yeah, nobody really cares about your benefits. There's no employer provided benefits like health insurance, retirement plans. Some companies actually give you retirement plans as a full-time worker. So you work with them for like a year, 2 years. You have like money that they will give you when you retire. While there are some that have what we call HMO, health insurance, and all that. So for some companies, they don't really give you that benefit. While most full-time companies, especially if it's a good role with a good company, have those extra benefits that come with it. But if you're a freelancer, don't really expect anything like that. So that's another disadvantage or con when it comes to being a freelancer. For those that are just joining, you've not liked the video, like the video, please, and subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribe to the channel. And if you're getting value, type value, 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 like we always say. Now, another con, number three con, when it comes to working as a freelancer, is what we call um you have to be self-disciplined. Guys, you really have to be self-disciplined. Another scenario I'll point out again is um my previous role. Okay, no, since we're talking about freelancing, when I was a freelancer, like as a graphics designer, I like using graphics design because that's when I did a lot of freelance as a graphics designer. That's when I did multiple freelance jobs or gigs, like we usually call it. So for freelance gigs, another con, a disadvantage is what you call you got to the self-discipline. You need strong time management, seriously, and self-motivation skills. This is because imagine um, telling a client that you are going to deliver on a job and a design in 7 days, and even if you know that you can do that job in 2 days or 3 days, something in you will just be telling you there's still time. It's getting to the fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, and sometimes you might delay on projects because you feel like you had a lot of time. So self-discipline is key. If you're that kind of person that you're not really able to tell yourself, yeah, you are good, you deliver this job in a specific period of time, and you deliver it, please run away from being a freelancer because you mess up a lot of times. So self-discipline is key. But if you're working full-time, where you know you have KPIs, the company already tells you that you have to deliver this within this specific period of time, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks. They are giving you timeline to work with. But as a freelancer, you are the one in charge. So it takes a lot of self-discipline for you to really deliver excellently as a freelancer. So yeah, those are the three cons for working freelancing. Okay, so now let's move right into being a full-time, working full-time remotely. So like I said, I've been able over the course of my little years on earth, I've been opportunity to work both as a freelancer and also work full-time with multiple organizations, brands, and individuals. So I can tell you the pros and cons of both of them from personal experience and books and people I've spoken to also. So I'm not just telling you things that I read somewhere. I'm telling you things that I've experienced personally. That is why you hear me share my stories here and there. So yeah, somebody type remote work, full time remote work. Now this is one a lot of people like because you have a salary. You are earning $1K, $2K, $3K every single month. You can ball, do everything you want because you know this amount of money will come at the end of the month. So even while all that is actually fun, there are also disadvantages like you will hear when we get to that point. So guys, don't lose me now. Ensure you stay to the end because when it comes to disadvantage, you see that it's not all rosy on the other side. Okay. So when it comes to working full time remotely, let's go to the advantages of working full time. Of course, you should know that the number one advantage here is stable income and benefits. So that's where you hear people say, "Oh, I'm in Nigerian. I work remotely with a company. I get paid $1,000 at the end of the month." And you're like, "Okay, okay, guy, you are 20 years, you are 22 years. You are some people are even as young as 17, 18, and they're earning as high as 5 million naira in a month." You might ask how that is possible. Time you do the math and calculate 5 million naira in dollars, you see that is not a lot of money. So when it comes to that, you feel that one of the advantages is stable income and benefits. So you have a consistent salary with employer provided benefits. Like I explained, some companies when they hire you, they give you allowance for your work tools. I've worked with a company before where I had data allowance. So apart from the salary they pay me at the end of the month, I for my work I'm being sponsored. My data, my internet subscription is being sponsored. So there are certain companies that do that, give you that benefits. So stable income and benefits is one of the advantages of remote work. You can't just not like stable income and benefits. Right. Then number two advantage of working full time remotely is what we call structured work environment. So, like I explained when I was talking about freelancing, I explained that you are the one in charge of your time. You define your schedule. But when it comes to being working full time remotely, you have clear expectations and you have defined work hours. For some companies, they can tell you that they expect you to work a minimum of 7 hours a day, which is sometimes within the period of 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., 3 p.m. But when it now comes to working with a company that is in a different time zone with you, this is where a problem now comes in. So I've worked with a company that my work hours based on time zone, my work hours is from 4 p.m. to like um 10 p.m. So while other people spend their day in Nigeria working, I spend my nights working and I sleep during the day. I've had companies that I work with where um yeah, UK has like very similar timeline time zone with Nigeria. So I worked with a company in the UK which I didn't have any issues with the time zone. But um when it came to structured work environments, there's always clear expectations for full-time remote jobs. So you have clear expectations, you have targets to meet in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. Your employer, your manager tells you that, okay, this is what I expect from you in the next 4 weeks, this is what I expect from you in the next 1 month. You understand? So that keeps you on your toes and tells you that this is what you are meant to achieve. You understand? But if you're working freelance, nobody really cares about that. You're the one in charge of your time. You're the one responsible for setting your schedules and your expectations. So that is one advantage of it. Can be an advantage for some people. It can be a disadvantage, but I feel it's an advantage for a lot of people because people work better. People are more. Some people are more. What's it called? Some people are more efficient in their work. Some people are more Okay, you can hear me now, right? I believe you should be able to hear me. I can see the feedback from my end. So I don't know what happened, but yeah, it's good to know you're back. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, promise. So yeah, where did I stop? I was talking about um pros of working remotely, and I was talking about full-time remote jobs, structural work environment. Yes. So for some persons, that could be an advantage. That's an advantage for them because they need to have expectations. So I'm talking about my agency, that the people I'm going to be working with, we have clear expectations. So if a company plans to hit an annual revenue of about $1 million, for instance, or in naira, if a company plans to hit an annual revenue, maybe a startup of let's say 5 million naira, 10 million naira, it is expected that the team members are the ones to champion that growth. So every team member, the easiest way to hit targets like that is that every team member has specific expectations they are meant to meet. If not, there will be a problem. Either their benefits are not given to them or they will be sacked because you are not being productive. So yeah, clear cut expectations. Number three pro when it comes to being a working full time remotely
is career development opportunities. Guys, you see this particular one. I've been privileged to have this for the course of my life, or for the past 5 years of my life. Career development opportunities, access to training programs, and potential for promotion. But now, specifically based on access to training programs, there are certain companies that give you access to courses that normally you pay thousands of dollars for, but because you're working for the company and they want you to develop yourself personally so that you can bring more value to the company, they give you access to these resources. This is part of what I'm going to be doing for my team members working for my agency. They're going to be having access to training and career development courses that normally they will pay thousands of dollars for, but they'll be getting access to it because I need them to be productive. I need them to have the right skill set. If I'm to make more money, or the companies to make more money, the employees need to be good at what they do. They need to be um at their best every single point in time. So yeah, some companies give you access to career development opportunities. A lot of companies, when you're working full time for them, is part of your perks. You have access to training programs. I know a specific company that you know, a company can register for what you call an institution profile on Coursera. So for a platform like Coursera that has like professional courses that normally you pay large sum of money for. So what the company does is that they register on Coursera as an institution, which of course is very expensive, but they can pay as a company for their employees. Sorry, for their employees to have access to those courses. So it's a very very exciting way to motivate employees to work and also perform better because they have access to these opportunities for free. Then going over to disadvantages of working full time remotely. Now, that's cons of working full time remotely because, like I said, everything that has an advantage has a disadvantage. Guys, for those that have questions, do well to start getting your questions ready. I'll give you the opportunity to ask for those that are live. Then, if you're watching the replay later on, you can drop your question in the comments and I'll reply to them as soon as possible. So, yeah, for cons or disadvantage of working full time remotely, one of the disadvantages is what we call less flexibility. Of course, being a freelancer gives you flexibility, but working full time remotely gives you less flexibility. So you have fixed schedules. For instance, companies can have weekly stand up meetings. I worked at a company where we have stand up meetings every Monday, and even though it's online, you are meant to be in that meeting. You don't miss meetings because it just shows you are not ready for the job or you are incompetent if you miss meetings. So, one of the disadvantages of full-time remote jobs is, yeah, you will always have those fixed meetings. Expect it. Fixed schedules, and you have less control over the project choices. So you basically work based on what your manager gives you. You work based on what your employer gives you. So you're not the one to choose the projects to work on. So let's say if you are a software engineer, for instance, and you are a backend developer and you work on setting, if the company uses a particular programming language, you are meant to use that programming language because the code base is already in that programming language. Or let's say you're a graphics designer, you work for a particular company and the company uses Photoshop, they pay for Adobe Suite, and you tell them you want to use Canva, they will just sack you. They will see you as somebody that is not serious because first of all, you must have read the job description before you applied, and these were the tools that they said you must know how to use. So you don't come on board and you tell them, "I know you don't want to use Adobe Photoshop or you don't want to use Adobe Suite, you want to use Canva." They'll just see you as somebody that is not serious. So yeah, um, you have fixed schedules and you have less control over project choices. Number two disadvantage is what I titled potential isolation. You can literally have limited social interaction if a company lacks a strong remote culture. Now, what that means is that there are certain companies that you might be working full time remotely for them, but their remote job is almost as good as working 9 to 5 because you are actually working 9 to 5. The only difference is that you're not leaving your house. The only difference is that you are working from the comfort of your home, but you are working 9 to 5 every single day. So sometimes there can be isolation where you have little time to really interact with people. go out a lot and have social gatherings. I have a friend that is always on his laptop. He'll tell you that, guy, oh my, I have this deadline, I have this task to meet up with. He doesn't really have time to go out or time to spend time even with family. He can just be in his room from morning till night working on a particular design. He's a UI UX designer. So sometimes it can lead to really, there's always the potential for isolation. Just get ready for that. Then number three disadvantage is what I titled dependence on employer stability. So your job security is tied to the company's performance. Yeah, somebody can type that. Your job security is tied to the company's performance. So there are certain companies that for those that are still with me, guys, stay to the end because there's something I'll share with you in the end I want you to really have, and you wouldn't know if you leave me now. So for another disadvantage when it comes to full-time remote job that is it's when it comes to job security is dependent on the employer stability. So your job security is tied to the company's performance. Your job security is tied to the company's performance. What that means is that if the company decides today that, oh, they want to shut down, it means that you've lost your job. And there's really nothing you can do about it because your what makes you earn money is the fact that the company is still moving forward, it's still making money. So maybe if something happens or for whatsoever reason a company fails or a company shuts down, what that automatically means for you is that you are losing your job, you are unemployed. It's pretty crazy, right? But those are the risks when it comes to working full time remotely and without having any other source of income. So somebody can be a baller today, earning 5K dollars, $3,000, even as high as $10,000 every month, working for a company. And maybe the person is not saving, the person is not investing, the person is not building a business or something, and it's just squandering the money every single month. Immediately the company shuts down for whatsoever reason, or even if they don't shut down, or you get laid off, or you get sacked, or you get fired. So what that means for you is that automatically you've lost your job, you've lost your source of income. So guys, that's another disadvantage when it comes to um working full time remotely. So now the next thing I'll talk about before moving to question and answer is what are the key considerations you should look at for choosing between the two. I'll just spend about 5 minutes here and we'll ask our questions. So somebody has now understood, okay, these are the pros and cons of being a freelancer. These are the pros and cons of being a full-time um, worker, working full-time remotely. So what should you now consider when you are trying to choose between the two? Yeah, number one thing you should consider is your personal work style. Now, from the pros and cons I just mentioned, you should already tell if you are somebody that can sit down in front of a laptop from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. every single day for 5 days a week, then full time remote job can be your go to. So, your personal work style is pretty important. There are people who they are not able to thrive in structured environments. They prefer being autonomous, they prefer working with multiple people, they prefer working on this project, working on this project, working on this project, working on this project. For such people, they will struggle when it comes to full-time remote jobs. So for such people, freelancing is better for them. So understand your personal work style. While there are some people who can work on both sides, they can do both freelance and they can work full-time. So it just depends on what works best for you. That will determine the type of jobs. Now, a lot of people prefer to apply to jobs based on availability. I tell you guys, that is not a good strategy. In as much as I know you are trying to, get the best opportunity and get paid as soon as possible, trust me, in the long term, it's not sustainable. The reason is because you will get to a point where you break down, or you get to a point where you will be fatigued because it does not fit into your personal work style. In as much as we tell people to be flexible, try to, don't be rigid, but you guys you agree with me that there are certain things that no matter how hard you try to do it, it doesn't just fit into your personal work style. So it's very important for you to understand your personal work style. And if you're someone that thrives in structured environments or you prefer autonomy, that will determine whether you should go for freelance or full time. Now, another thing you should also consider are your financial goals and your needs. Now, you need to consider your need for stable income versus the potential for higher but variable earnings. So, consider either if you are someone that prefers, earning money getting paid a fixed amount of money at the end of the month, or you're somebody that is good with earning 10K here, 5K here, 100,000 here, 200,000 here. So understand that it's pretty important that you need to really decide on your financial goals and your needs. So if you're somebody who probably your rent money is a very high amount of money, and you prefer just having your rent money at the end of the year, you don't want any problem, you don't want anything that will really, you can really consider having a stable source of income, because from that you can calculate the amount of money you need to spend in a month and really plan your expenses based on your salary. But if you're somebody who your salary, your bills are not really predictable, you can spend high, you can spend low. You need you then you I think you need to consider variable source of income, multiple source of income, which is more in line with the freelance side of things. Then another consideration is your career aspirations. Now, let me share a personal story. For me, I knew my long term goal when first started working remotely. I knew that my long term goal in the next 2, 3 years, I knew to get to a point where I'll start up my own business, I'll start up my own company. So while I was working, I had in my mind that I'm not going to spend 5 years with any company because it doesn't suit me, it doesn't fit in my long term goals. Guys, pretty very, very important. Understand your long-term goals. Are you somebody that you can stay with a particular company for 3, 4, 5 years, or you're somebody that you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to build a company, you want to build a startup, you want to be a founder? So any job you're accepting, you know that this is for this period of time, and once you've either gotten enough money or gotten enough experience, you can now launch whatever it is you want to launch. So your long-term goals and your career aspirations is very, very important. Reflect on your long-term goals, and you will now know which path aligns better with your long-term goals. Okay. Then the last one I will talk about here is your risk tolerance. Evaluate your comfort level. It's pretty important. Are you somebody that is okay with uncertainty? You don't know the amount of money you will earn next week. You don't know the amount of money you earn next 2 week. Are you good with that? There are some people that know, they just prefer, I should get this amount of money at the end of the month. I'm good with that. I'm not okay with, I don't have that risk tolerance. So some people have the risk tolerance. They are okay with not earning so much this month, but they can cover up the next month. So it's very, very important for you to understand your risk tolerance. Evaluate your comfort level with uncertainty, because in the way we put it in my country, in Pidgin, if Saba hold you, there will be problem. Oh. So guys, understand this. You have to really know your risk tolerance. Are you good with uncertainty or income variability? Are you comfortable with earning 1,000 naira today and earning 0 naira tomorrow? You really need to determine your risk tolerance. All right, guys. So that's it for working freelance and working remotely, full time remotely. The pros and the cons. So I'll take the next few minutes now for our questions, and I will be answering your questions. I believe you should have your questions ready. So go ahead and type your questions in the chat. I'll go ahead to answer them. For those that will be watching the replay, of course, do well to drop your questions in the comments, and I will answer those questions. For those that are already on the replay, you can also come back to the video because there are some questions that you might actually gain knowledge from that will be in the comment section. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and ask your question, guys. So I believe we've been able to learn a lot. If you've got value from this session, type value in the comments or in chat, and I will know exactly that you got value from this session. Value. You know how we do it. Then for those that want to ask their questions, go ahead and ask your questions. I'm waiting for you. If I wait for the next few minutes, I don't see any question, then we're gonna end the live stream. But I'm pretty sure you should have your questions. Yeah. Go ahead and ask your question, guys. Awesome. Yeah, value. So I someone told me last week that this playlist should be a private playlist and it should be only open for people that pay. But I felt like over the years, at least to an extent, I've made some amount good money working remotely, and I feel like it wouldn't make sense if I charge people for this. So let me just put this knowledge out there. So guys, if you have not watched the previous video on this playlist, just go ahead and check the playlist on earn and work remotely, and start from the first video where we introduced the um playlist, and go ahead and just binge watch the videos. You can spend a whole night just watching all the videos. There's a whole lot to gain. I think in the previous session, I showed us practical ways that I do my job search. I find remote opportunities that a lot of people are not even aware of. I showed us in the previous video. So go ahead and watch that video. I'll also link it in the description for those that want to go back to that video. So I have some questions here. Number one question is, can someone possibly combine freelancing with a full-time job? Okay, yes, it is very, very, very much possible. I've done that too over the years. You can definitely combine it. But like I said, it depends on your style, what works for you. And it also depends on the kind of job. There are some full-time jobs that wouldn't give you that time to really do anything freelance. While there are some that you can take side gigs while you are working full-time for the company. So yeah, you can definitely combine it. It just depends on the job, the requirements of the job, and also your personal style, your comfort style, your risk tolerance again. If you check and you see that it's not something you can do, instead of losing on both ends, better hold your job away for the period of time at least. But if you feel like you're somebody that can combine both of them and you can work both of them, also go ahead. While there are some full-time roles, there are some companies that will tell you that you are not allowed to work for any other company that does the same thing within this period of time that you're working with us. So it's best to, if you want to accept those kind of jobs, you have to accept their terms and conditions. So I've said three things now. It depends on the job description, the requirements, and it also depends on you as an individual and what you feel works for you. Are you somebody that can combine both of them? Will you have that time, that ability to put in the work on both sides and not lose at any of the ends? So that is something you should consider. So yeah, I see another question. For the person that asked that previous question, if your question was answered, please let me know. If it was answered. Yeah. I see another question that says, can someone possibly, okay, yeah. I think it's a broad question, but how can I start up as a freelancer? Okay. The first thing is that, do you have the skills? That's the first question you have to ask yourself, because um if you're arranging a service for somebody, you have to have the right skills. So the first question is, do you have the skills? Are you confident that your skills can be of value to whoever you want to work for? If you have the skills, go ahead and pitch yourself, market your skills, talk about what you do, talk about how what you do can help a business. For instance, if you're a graphics designer, create content around graphics design and why it's important for businesses. Create content around why the kind of designs you do are important to a business owner. You can decide to even further niche down and say you want to be a graphics designer for Web3 um, projects. So what that means is that you want to work strictly for Web3 organizations, and you want to tell them exactly how your graphic design skills can be of value to them. Of course, every individual, every company wants to hire somebody that will make more money for them. So you want to sell yourself and sell your skills, market yourself, carry your business on your head, carry your skills on your head. That's the easiest way for you to start up as a freelancer, because the people that will hire you, you have to take yourself to them. You don't just sit down in your house and expect them to come to you without doing anything. Social media is there for you to market yourself, talk about your skills, and all that. But of course, ensure you are. I'm always of the opinion that you should be valuable. Don't market nonsense. Don't sell rubbish. Type that in the chat box. Don't sell nonsense. Don't market nonsense. Ensure you are marketing skills that can provide real value to people and businesses. Those are the people that will pay you huge amount of money. People that you can really solve their problems. Then yeah, another question is, in a case where you have a full-time work that may not be very engaging, is it possible to also run freelance jobs? Yeah, I think I've answered that. Yes, definitely. if the job is not so engaging, and if their terms and conditions do not state that you are not allowed to work for other companies or other, then go ahead and do that. By all means, go ahead. I've had I've had a job where the employer specifically told me that I'm free to take other side gigs as long as it doesn't interrupt the job that I'm doing for the company. So by all means, go ahead and do that if you are allowed to. All right, so I think that's all for all the questions. It's already an hour. I thought we weren't going to spend an hour, but I'm sure you gain value from this session. Again, if you gain value, do also like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and I will answer your question. If you're watching the replay later on, do well to drop your questions in the comments, and I'll do well to answer when I see them. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. For next session, the link will be up sometime later on, and of course, you set a reminder for the next week session. Our next week session, you don't want to miss next week's session. I will not tell you the topic yet because I want you to come back to the channel and check for it yourself. But it's still in line with the playlist and the series we are running, which is about working and earning remotely. So, if you're watching from Nigeria, have an amazing night wherever you're watching from. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.